Ladies and gentlemen, yo, fellas, what's poppin'? How you doing today? Happy Thursday right now. So what we're going to be doing here is breaking down a Thursday night football slate with another $1 million. So these showdown slates are pretty crazy right now. $1 million on Monday, $1 million tonight. Welcome in. At any point during the video, if you're watching live right now or on the replay, please like, subscribe to the video. All those things really helps this channel and myself. And then the other thing, video is sponsored by Super Draft. Last time we did a stream on Monday night, 80 plus people signed up for Super Draft. It was crazy. It's the most we ever had since the NBA days when we first started doing it. Because we were talking about how the contest was not filling, very good prize pool, and, we were giving some plays and things like that for Super Draft. We'll do that again tonight, so check it out. And also, somebody won $25,000 Rooskies the day before on Sunday. Somebody else just won $5,000 Rooskies over the past, 2 or 3 days that reached out to me via Twitter. So yeah, be sure to check it out. I appreciate it. It'll help the channel, but also it'll help you a ton. It's a really fun format. If you actually grinded like a bankroll just on Super Draft, just from the overlay, just from less professionals being there, and actually having an idea of how to play the format better than other people, if you have access to projections, you're going to be in a really good spot. So be sure to check it out. The promo code, just my name, SAL, will get you a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So free money bonus if you just use my name. So it even helps you a little bit more. The link is down below. That's the logo up above. Promo code SAL. So what's up, everybody? How y'all doing? We got an hour. I'm going to be here for an hour or so, or until this thing stops popping off. Yeah, I'm excited. This is we'll kind of break down this slate. I see David just super chatted, so I appreciate you. He says, Sal, you're my favorite content creator. Keep up the great work. Very kind of you. That's honestly awesome. So I appreciate all your support and everybody who tunes in to these live streams and videos. What's up, Cody? How you doing, man? Getting way too much Gage. What do you think? I think Gage makes a lot of sense tonight. So yeah, look, this slate is going to be tough. If there's not a random touchdown scorer like a Christian Blake, if he's even going to be out there tonight, right? We'll see what happens when inactives and actives. Like somebody crazy coming out of nowhere, it's going to be tough because the kickers and Russell Gage are all your value. Brian Hill and Ian Thomas to an extent, right? I'm getting a decent amount of Brian Hill. I don't want that. I'm projecting him for only 4.5 fantasy points, but for half of these lineups to actually work out, it's difficult. Russell Gage, yeah. Russell Gage looks like he should be, in my opinion, one of the higher owned players in the slate. I don't know if he actually gets there because of the fact that he's not going to be projecting out that great for most people, but if people are using optimizers, you're going to get a decent amount of Russell Gage. It's not your highest owned captain or your highest owned wide receiver, nothing like that, or at least you shouldn't unless you're really over projecting him. But you should get some pretty crazy stuff. I'm pulling up some stuff right now so we can discuss in depth. But yeah, what I'm going to do here is just answer a bunch of your questions. It's a tough slate. It's a really tough slate. When most of the players on this slate that look like quality plays are literally $8,000 and above, then you have no mid-range, right? You only have, we talked about on the video this morning, you only have one player in the 6K range and one player in the 4K range. And both of those players look like, they look like the same amount of plays, the same exact type of plays as honestly the kickers for the most part for me. Curtis Samuel and Hayden Hurst, they're better plays than the kickers in my opinion because of their ceiling, but projection-wise, they look very similar. Yo, Sal, I signed up for Patreon today. Let's get it. Hey, welcome to the team, man. Yeah, we're doing record numbers this year on Patreon. A lot of people coming in, a lot of people staying on, enjoying the content, so I appreciate all of you a ton. So let me just see right now. Somebody brought up Russell Gage and how popular I think that Russell Gage will be today. Look, I don't think he's going to be owned in the captain spot. I really don't. So, getting Russell Gage in your captain spot, when I say don't be owned, he'll be owned. He won't be 0% owned, but I don't know if he hits 3% ownership in the captain spot, and he lets you do a lot of other things, and he's seeing targets in this offense. I mean, he's still going to need to score a touchdown for you to be a viable captain, but he lets you do a lot of other things with other players. So I do think that Russell Gage is definitely a viable captain tonight. I have ownership, one of my 5 captains, to Russell Gage, but he's also going to be under-owned just regardless. Overall ownership right now in Russell Gage, I'm going to have him in probably a good, let me see my factoring my captain ownership. Factoring in my captain ownership, I'm going to have 55% Russell Gage tonight. And honestly, that feels low for me. I'm basically just hedging that I think he outbeats these kickers, who these kickers are averaging 10 fantasy points a game each, projecting them both for 9. But yeah, Gage looks like a strong play all the way around. Somebody says, can you sing? ? I don't think so. I can rap, but I can't sing. Hill's the only person I can get to under Gage, somebody says. Yeah, so Brian Hill and Ian Thomas are so right now in my 150s, I have one lineup with Ian Thomas, and if I keep Brian Hill in, excluding the rule, I have a rule set that I can't get Todd Gurley and Brian Hill together. So if I keep Brian Hill in this pretty good matchup, right, you're hoping for 6 to 8 touches. You're hoping then for 6 to 8 fantasy points. Obviously, the more the better. I get 20% of Brian Hill, which is more than Todd Gurley because I'm getting a shit ton of Mike Davis. Mike Davis overall is in 85% of my lineups, factoring in the captain spot. I don't want that much Brian Hill, right? I don't need to be at 22% Brian Hill. So that's going to change, right? So don't figure out the end of the show that I'm going to have 22% Brian Hill. I do think he's going to be owned. I do think Brian Hill's going to be in double-digit ownership numbers. I just don't need to be double the field on him or somewhere around there. So I'm going to try and reduce Brian Hill. Maybe I'll dock his projection from 5 fantasy points to 4, see what happens. Joe donates $5. He says, I am the only one to think Ian Thomas could be a sleeper to even get some decent yards and even a touchdown. What's up, Joe? No, I don't think you're crazy. He runs the third most routes on this team. He's just not utilized that great. But now he faces an Atlanta Falcons team that absolutely stinks when you're talking about covering the tight end. So, I mean, some of that can just be running bad. Some of that can be facing some really good tight ends on some other teams. And then some of it is just you absolutely stink, right? Like, I mean, facing TJ Hawkinson and some quality tight ends, obviously they're going to have a better chance to do damage against you. The last time that he faced Atlanta, you saw 0 receptions for Ian Thomas, and he hasn't been doing that great this year. His highest overall game so far this year is scoring 8 fantasy points because he fell into the end zone on 5 receiving yards. So even if Ian Thomas does that again, he catches a 5-yard touchdown, right? He has 8 fantasy points for you, whatever it might be. It's no guarantee that it even gets you into the winning lineup because he's not $1,000. He's not $600. He's $2,600 tonight, right? So like his 8 fantasy points, if the kicker scored 12, it probably doesn't matter. If Russell Gage scores 15, it might not matter. So yeah, I think Ian Thomas is in play. He's in my player pool. I get 1% ownership, but it's tough. No tight ends tonight, question mark. Not getting a lot. Not even getting a lot of Hayden Hurst. Don't forget about the nasty weather at Bank of America. Yeah, you can see my tweet about the weather. I don't really believe in weather for football unless the Vegas odds tell me to, and right now the Vegas odds have not budged. There's been no change to the total. Changes to some of the team totals, but not overall. So you're probably not seeing much right now in terms of my interest. I get it. Look, there's going to be rain. There's going to be wind, all this stuff. Okay, well, I mean, we'll see once the game comes because people see that in the forecast for like lasting 15 minutes in the game, not 3 hours. And the wind, most of these stadiums factor out the wind. And if they don't, well, the 6 times a game that there's a pass thrown 30 or more yards down the field, the wind gust would have to perfectly come through at the perfect angle to affect that, right? So I don't really get too worried about weather. Such a different slate. Crazy. Yeah, it seems like every time so far in these showdown slates, Chase says such a different slate. Crazy. It seems like we're getting some sort of value, right? Like most of these slates, we would have like an Ian Thomas at like $1,400, right? Something really cheap to the point where it makes it a little bit more appealing to get to him. What we do get on this slate is cheap defenses and cheap kickers. Sometimes the kickers are like 4,500. Defenses is on the Monday night slate were like 5K. So, I mean, that's where you get a little bit more value. I think that your value is mainly going to come today from Russell Gage, looks fantastic, and then the kickers, honestly. I think I'm getting some defenses, right? The defenses are definitely in play, in my opinion. I got a lot of the defenses, like 20% of each or so. So that's where most of my value is coming from. Yeah, I mean, just Ian Thomas and Brian Hill, their price points are tough. I think Brian Hill's the better play than Ian Thomas, though. Anderson or Morse, Sal? Yeah, so right now I have more DJ Moore. Slightly. Like, I have a lot of both of these guys. They're barely... Their difference is like 5 percentages overall. Mike Davis at the captain spot. Yeah, looks real good there. Mike Davis, highest owned captain, right, for you? He's up there. He's up there. Do you see this game being a shootout? Asks Jared Daigle. Yeah, so this game, I mean, look, the projection for the total points right now is 51.5. Now, most years that would be like one of the highest projected games of the week, but you're getting consistent 54 to 56 game totals on these games. So, yeah, do I think that it can be a shootout? Yeah, definitely. Favorite Super Draft play tonight, somebody asks. Who asks that? Joseph Bold. Yeah, so Joseph Bold asks about Super Draft plays. Yeah, so what I'm looking at tonight on Super Draft, same thing with Draftkings. A lot of Carolina Panthers look good for their multipliers. Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson, Mike Davis, DJ Moore, like those look like some of the best plays, if not the best plays in Super Draft. What's your highest projected owned captain? 30% tonight. We're all waiting for your freestyle. Yeah, I mean, there's recordings out there. There's stuff in my iTunes. I just do some raps here and there for fun. The last one that I did was probably back in March with a buddy, more of a parody for some of our friends because we were going to go on a trip in April, a get-together, college reunion type of a trip with all our buddies, but COVID smacked that bad boy down first week of April to New Orleans, so we had a whole rap set out. Was going to order somebody to mix and master it on Fiverr, but obviously that never came to fruition. Julio had hip issues and Gage had some knee issues. In the last game, right? Is that what you're discussing? That they faced this team. Obviously, Gage came out in the first half last game, not just against the Panthers, but last game. Gurley and Hurst or Ridley and Slot, the kicker. I'd go Ridley and the kicker. Fellas, good luck tonight. He says Frellas with an R, Travis Drapper. My man's trying to pull some Steve Brule stuff in here, Dr. Steve Brule. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, Travis. I'm considering a cheap captain tonight. Yeah, I mean, I think you can roster Russell Gage. That's the cheapest that I go at captain. I don't even normally go that cheap at captain unless there's a glaring obvious guy. I don't think Russell Gage is a glaring obvious guy. He's my lowest owned captain, but I'm getting a decent amount. I actually only have 4 captains now, so I do like this condensed ownership. It's tough. Like, look, it's really tough to get captains of Julio, to get captains of Calvin Ridley. They're expensive. And when guys like Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore are going to project out like identical, or if you have my projections, some of them better than Julio and Ridley, it's really tough to have lineups where those guys are going to be higher owned than the captain spot. And if the ownership, or at least projected ownership, isn't going to come in at a point where I don't think, I don't think there's going to be that wide of a gap. I do think Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore probably come in higher owned than the captain spot than like a Calvin Ridley or Julio, but I think it's going to be like fractional, right? I think it'll be like 2-3% difference, something crazy. I do think, though, that if you're building by hand, you have an advantage over lineup optimizers and people playing 150s, not overall, of course, because you have like 1 to 5, they have 150, but I do think you have an advantage from a standpoint of, and just bear with me, I'll finish this and then get back to the questions. I see a bunch. Thank you. Appreciate you all in here. But I think you have an advantage of the fact that these Atlanta wide receivers, I don't think they're the optimal play. Obviously, playing optimal for Showdown is not the way to win Showdowns. It could help, but it doesn't guarantee you anything by any means. But they're going to be lower owned than the captain spot. There's no doubt about it. And that includes Russell Gage. So if you're building by hand, like Julio, Ridley, and Gage will be lower owned than they probably should be because of their price tags, and there's not a lot of value in the slate. So if you can make it work somehow with the kicker and Gage, whatever it might be, it's a way to get a little bit different. It's nothing glaring, though, that makes me really jump off of them. I like Julio. He's a dang hunk, somebody says. Hey, shout out Julio. DJ Moore, Mike Davis. I'll have more Mike Davis tonight, but I have a lot of both of those men. Do you think that making lineups with little to no correlation makes the most sense since it's Showdown slates? What's up, Ian Douglas Street? No, you want to correlate your lineups nowhere near. You don't need to worry about it as much. So, okay, you want to correlate game flows, right? And it's a one-game slate, so you're probably just going to naturally correlate your lineups, right? Like whether it's having a quarterback with a receiver, obviously your run-back options are natural in this, 5-1s, things like that. We had a 5-1 almost take down the Millie Maker with just 2 defenses last time, which was crazy, until a stat correction, which lost that guy $990, like $4,000, something nuts. But yeah, correlating lineups for specific outcomes is one way to go. But even if you correlate for that outcome, and even if it pans out, you can still not win, right? So if you're playing a lot of lineups, yeah, you should try and set up different types of game flows and stacks through there. Otherwise, you're probably going to just naturally correlate your lineup somehow. Any love for the GOAT, Luke Stocker? No, thank you. He's running 5 routes a week. It's just not much love there. Gurley is a must-play. I think Gurley will be relatively lower owned compared to the other expensive players. I think like out of all these guys above 8K, he'll be the lowest owned in the captain and overall. Not even close. Like I think he'll be way lower owned than anybody else above 8K. But I think that is appropriate. So like I think that you should have more Gage than Gurley, this type of stuff. So Gurley's going to be lower owned, but he's not going to be the lowest owned in the slate. Gage will be lower owned. Samuel will be lower owned. And honestly, right now Gurley looks very similar from a projection standpoint as Gage for me. Will the swirling winds affect the kickers' totals? That's actually a good point, but no, nothing has changed on their props right now. Hayden Hurst, sneaky play as the captain. Don't want to go there in the captain spot, but I think he's okay. I'm only getting like 6%, so I'm going to probably come in below the field on Hayden Hurst by about half tonight. That's just a dead range, right? There's not even options in that mid range, and it's a dead range. Wasn't Eli Apple released earlier this week? Yeah, he was released on like Tuesday or something. I made these notes on Monday for the most part. So if there's anything in here about players released, I think like Seth Roberts got the release, so I can eliminate Seth Roberts as well. I try and get ahead of these notes like on Monday and Tuesday. I think Eli Apple got released later in the week on Tuesday, so you can just take him out of wherever he's listed on here. Who do I have him covering? Is it Ridley? Somewhere in here. Here we go. Yeah. We'll see Apple. We'll just pull this up too. We'll see Jackson. Bang. There you go. Fixed. Sal, saw you on Awesome saying you would tilt if you were that guy who lost out on $1 million, LOL. After saying that days before you don't tilt, I get it, though. Just funny. No, yeah, Will, did you watch the entire Awesome clip? The entire Awesome clip is me. I mean, this is like people taking journalism out of context. It's like me for a minute straight just saying how, like, I don't tilt. I, like, would rather just not look at like, I don't, like, tonight, I won't look at my lineups until, like, there's, like, 5 minutes left in the game. I know that there's no point to. Maybe even, like, 3 minutes left in the game, right? Same thing that I do on the weekends. Like, I know how players are performing. I don't know the exact numbers. So that's what I said on the Osmo thing. I was like, I just don't tilt. I never would. But if you're telling me that I'm going to lose $997,000, I'd be fucking pissed off, right? I mean, I don't know how you're not going to be angry from that. I'm not tilting the games. But yeah, I'd be pissed off at the fact that I lose $997,000 on a sack that was ruled a negative yardage loss, even though the quarterback was basically about to get clobbered and just slid down in the backfield. Sal, I guess they were right. The Reynolds was plus 155 to score a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, he's running similar routes to all those other guys playing the Brandon Cooks role. So, yeah, I mean, based on his increased usage, I guess. I don't know. It still didn't seem likely. Julio and Koo or Ryan and Brian Hill? I'll go with Julio and Koo. Any interest in Trent Cannon? I have none right now, no. Gage over Hill, yeah, for me, definitely, not even close. Is Smith a good play? He only has one target the last 3 games. Ito Smith, yeah, no, I'm not going to go there. He ran like just 3 routes last week, only saw like, or ran 2 routes, only saw like 3 snaps, something really low. Is 75% Samuel too much in a 20 max? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like, you can do whatever you want, but my personal opinion is, yeah. Like, I have 18% Samuel in my 150 max. How much do you look into the recent matchup with projections? I believe Jones missed. Not much. I mean, it's like good to look at for discussing with you guys, like how a player match up against another player, things like that. But there's a lot of players out for COVID reasons. There's a lot of players out for injuries. The recent matchup from a projection standpoint does not factor in all that much. No. Not that much. It's going to include a lot of historical data. It'll include the current Vegas odds and things like that. But like how the box scores were in that game, odds are my projections aren't going to take that into account much. Takes it into account very marginal. How do you see the game playing out tonight? I mean, I hope it goes for an over 50, right? Over 50 total, within 1 score the whole time. Actually a fine game. You're getting decent pressure from both defenses, although some injuries on both. You're getting a run defense for Carolina, and really both secondaries not being that great. So offenses should be able to move the ball. Both offenses are, for the most part, outside of McCaffrey, of course, completely healthy for how they have been the past month and a half. So, yeah, I mean, I think that you see a close game like Vegas is projecting here. Obviously, if you try and go off of what Vegas is projecting, you're going to start to get lineups that are going to be a little bit more unique, which is always the upside of doing that, right? So, like right now, I usually don't run 5-1s, but they are going to be like your situations where if they do hit, you have the best opportunity to really solo win or split with less people. So, I think I might run them tonight. I usually don't let 2 kickers into my lineups. I don't have a rule against that tonight. Can you show the nose? Yeah. Let me scroll down. Let me see if they come up onto the screen for you. There we go. There's a nose. Would you prefer Anderson or Moore in a single entry? Anderson will be higher owned. Anderson I projected out for more points. Obviously, Moore is a lot cheaper, and Moore also comes out as the better value for me. So if you're starting your lineup, I'd start it with DJ Moore. If you can fit in Anderson but still leave a lot of money on the table, I'd go there. But like if you have your lineup complete right now and you could put Anderson in and leave like $200 on the table, or you could put DJ Moore in and leave whatever that difference is on the table, I would just go to DJ Moore. That difference would be 8,200 versus 9,200. Yeah, so I'd be going to DJ Moore for the only reason that you leave an extra $1,000 on the table. Because I think that's going to leave your uniqueness a lot higher, and the amount of dupes being there, maybe even no dupes, but if you're leaving a lot, but maybe not having all that many duplicated lineups, because your EV, the amount of lineups, the second that the contest starts and you see how many people have the same lineup as you, if you're using like a Fantasy Labs dashboard or something, if there's like 30 people with the same lineup as you, if there's like 80 people with the same lineup as you, like why are you even watching, right? If you played one lineup tonight and you have like 85 people with the same lineup as you, obviously it's $1 million up for grabs tonight. So if you split it with 85 people, you're not hating that, and then you actually split the top 85 prize pools is the way Draftkings does it. But still, like in terms of expected value, your long-term opportunity to win in DFS, you're crushing yourself the second that happens. Any interest in Trent Cannon? No. Going to be a weird one tonight, I think. Yeah, I think there's going to be a weird one. Like somebody odd, like Olmedid at $1,000 could run tonight like 8 routes and score a touchdown and have like 20 yards, right? And he can be in the optimal lineup at $200 or $1,000. There's not a lot of value. So there was a slate 2 years ago where the Packers played the 49ers. Marquise Goodwin went the fuck off. Devontae Adams, I believe, went the fuck off. Rodgers went off, and it was like a backup. I don't even think it was Jimmy G that year. They all did really well, and then both kickers were in the winning lineup. They both scored like 13, 14 points. It was like Akers still maybe at that point, and or Robbie Gould and Mason Crosby, if I remember correctly. Packers had a big comeback victory. And St. Brown, I was going to say Enkwasimius, I can't say his fucking name. St. Brown from Notre Dame, I believe. He had a big catch towards the end, and both kickers are in the winning lineup. So, and that was a slate where there wasn't much value on that slate. So this kind of reminds me of that slate where both kickers, defenses, of course, as well, if they can get a touchdown, they're actually really in play a ton. Like I have a lot of kickers. Do you leave one running back in your lineup or do you leave 2? So I'm playing a lot of lineups, so that's a disclaimer here. Let me project my lineups or sort them on Fantasy Cruncher by my highest projected, and I'll start to let you know. I'm going to assume I'm going to have a lot of lineups with just one. I do have some Brian Hill. I do have some Todd Gurley. I have a lot of Mike Davis, so I don't have a lot of Gurley and Hill. So a lot of my lineups are going to have just one kicker. At least let's leave it at this, right? A lot of my highest projected lineups will have just one running back. Do you have any lineups with neither QB? I haven't scrolled through. So I play 150 lineups. I crunch more than that, like sometimes 300, sometimes 250, and I sort through and kind of exclude them. A lot of the lineups that I'm looking at right now will have one quarterback. I see some of them that have 2 quarterbacks. the top projected lineups that I'm seeing, they mainly all have at least one or two. I'm not seeing many that have no quarterbacks in them. I don't have a rule that's set to give me a quarterback in every lineup. They are expensive, of course, but they're also like Bridgewater is my only guy over 20 points. Matt Ryan is my second highest projected, so it also makes sense. Do you prefer Julio over Ridley? Yeah, by a good amount. As of right now, I'm going to have about 10% more Julio. CJ Beathard it was for that game. It was CJ Beathard in that game? Really? Was it Nick Mullins? Hurst big night question mark? He could. It's going to be really touchdown dependent. Feels like a night to fade both defenses. What do you think, Sal? I actually think tonight is a night to actually play not both defenses in the same lineup, although I don't think that that's completely out of the question for a unique lineup build. But more times than not, I actually think that tonight, compared to like the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I actually like the defenses a little bit more. People kind of misunderstand as when there's a lower scoring game like we had on Monday in terms of point totals, that's the time to play a defense. I'd rather play the defenses where there's really good pressure units, or at least like borderline top 10 for each of these teams that generate pressure. Matt Ryan was not good under pressure. Teddy Bridgewater, who has been making some mistakes, not a ton, but some mistakes this year in terms of interceptions. And the other big thing is just the fact that they're going to be throwing a lot. You're expecting Matt Ryan to throw about 40 times in this game like he has all season. You expect Teddy Bridgewater to throw 35. If it gets to a shootout, now you're starting to look at like 80-plus pass attempts. Eventually, somebody's going to make a mistake, and if there's pressure in there. So, yeah. And the big reason why I think the defenses are even more in play, this is the main just lineup construction one. You really don't have any salary savers, and the defenses are actually cheap tonight when they're normally like $4,000 or $5,000. You remind me of Chris from Sopranos. You the man, though. I only fuck with your content. I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Carolina does good against tight ends. So if you're ever looking at like defense versus position, like the opposite is like Atlanta's giving up a ton of points to tight ends, all this stuff. Same thing with Carolina, the Cardinals last year at a point. I think a lot of it is just trends. Obviously, some of it is schematically, like you're just giving up points to the middle of the field or like in the backfield, like for the past 3 years now is what you've seen out of the Colts doing, and to an extent Atlanta doing with running backs and tight ends. I think it's a little bit trendy, small sample size type stuff. And also, if you keep in mind that if you're a defense that's faced like Darren Waller and Travis Kelce this year, obviously you're going to be giving up more points and looking worse than a defense that's facing a bunch of dusty old tight ends, right? I guess he's not playing Gurley. No, I'm playing Gurley. I have 16% Todd Gurley. It's going to be below the field, but I have 16% Todd Gurley right now, which will probably be about half the field. It's hard to get to enough Atlanta. Yeah, I'm really debating just playing like 100% Russell Gage and hoping that man's health is okay. Because, I mean, he has had some just absolute stinker games, though. That's the concern. This matchup against Chin in the slot should be fine. Yeah, I mean, that's the concern. He's had some big games this year, like a lot of target games and the games that he's usually healthy. He's had some stinker games. The game he gets hurt against the Packers obviously comes out last week, but he still looks fine. How many captains is too many in 20 max? Negative EV to spread them out through 5. Yeah, I don't want to spread out through 5 captains in 20 max. I think it's up to your risk tolerance, but I would go to 1 to 3. I think most people it's okay for 2 to 3. I would go 1 to 3 depending on how risky you want to be. What percentage do you have QBs in your lineup? So I don't have any captain QBs tonight, although I'm not against it. I guess I am against it because I'm excluding them. I have like triple the amount of Teddy Bridgewater than Matt Ryan. I'm at 78% Bridgewater, 29% Ryan. People forget that Bridgewater threw for 260 yards in the first half last time he played the Falcons. Yeah, I mean, Bridgewater has been good. The issue with Bridgewater has not been his ability to pick up first downs, pick up yardage, all this stuff. He even is picking up rushing yards to an extent. The issue with Bridgewater is getting touchdowns. He only has 9 total touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns on the year. He had 2 first-half touchdowns last week, doesn't score again. So his issue is just piling on touchdowns, whether that be because guys are getting in on the ground, Curtis Samuel rushing touchdown last week, Mike Davis rushing touchdowns in the past, or just the fact that they kind of are playing at a pace that's not allowing for, or even in game situations in the way that they play in offense, are not allowing for just 40-point performances outside of like that huge week 1 game, which even then, you still have Christian McCaffrey playing, yada, yada, yada. Hurst or Gage? Gage. Young Hoku. Huh. Is Samuel a good play for captain? He'll be like an unowned play. So if you're trying to build a unique lineup, Curtis Samuel in the captain spot will probably be like unowned. I'd rather go to Russell Gage, who I think is one more involved in the offense, and also probably will be lower owned. Can you go to the top? Yeah, Ryan or Teddy just playing one lineup. I prefer Teddy. Tonight. Also, thanks for all the streams. You do a great job, says Spencer. Thank you, Spencer. I appreciate you a ton. If you have any constructive feedback, let me know. Playing Bridgewater and Davis together, yeah, that's fine. Bridgewater and Davis are like one of the few stacking quarterback and running backs that I'll even like consider or play. Like I played them 2 weeks ago together. They're like the only ones that I'll even like, for the most part. Not all. Like Kamara, sure I get to, but I normally don't get the breeze on main slates. Rodgers and Aaron Jones sometimes. But yeah, on a showdown slate, definitely going to be in play for both of them to be in your lineup. Hurst or Richard Rodgers? I'll go with Hurst. Brian Hill for the Millie. Yeah, look, Brian Hill's going to be involved. Like, I mean, I don't know to what extent, right? I mean, last week, like, you've really been seeing Todd Gurley. Come on, he has not been. Todd Gurley has been no means flashy, but he continues to just eat up this huge workload. He continues to get a little bit more passing volume here and there, but Brian Hill is still involved in these games. The concern that I would have for Brian Hill is you've seen in 3 straight weeks his snaps have gone down. Week 5 against Carolina, 32% of the snaps. That was actually the second highest he's played all year. Since then, 27% and 23% last week. Last week was the second lowest snaps that he's seen and the least snaps that he's seen since week 2 of the season. So those are your concerns, right? And when he faced Carolina, he saw 8 touches. But, I mean, the big reason why he at least looked decent in like the previous games, I think it was like a couple games ago against Chicago, he has the big rushing touchdown. But like outside of that, you're hoping that he can get you like 4 or 5 points. It's Young Wei-Koo. Give the man some respect. Calling him a host, somebody says. Yeah, I was just reading the comments. Which Panther receiver stands out to you the most? I mean, they both, Anderson and DJ Moore stand out a ton. I have slightly more DJ Moore, mainly due to price. And every single one of my lineups is leaving at least $1,000 on the table. I should probably call that out as well. Or $700. I had it at $1,000. If I was playing the Millie Maker, I would leave a lot more money on the table, just because there's a lot more people in those contests. Just looking at some stuff right now. Matt Ryan or Mike Davis? I have more Davis. Russell Gage or a kicker? Russell Gage. Which is the best that you've done in the Millie Maker tournaments? Asks Kane. Yeah, so if you're like not a regular, I don't really play the Millie Maker much. I usually put my single entry and 3 max lineups in there on the main slates. Showdown slates, I'm not going to play it. It's just, I mean, I don't really have much interest in the Millie Maker. The best that I did was when we won like almost 18,000. It was like 17.7K week 4. I keep forgetting if it was week 4 or 5. It was the week before Dak got hurt for the Cowboys stacks. I think it was week 4. And that week we finished at like 120th or something in the Millie Maker. But I never like take much shots. I just throw my single entry and 3 max lineups in there. My 150s I play into like basically all the lower stake stuffs up to $5 if they have a $5 contest that week, right? I really don't see the edge when you're facing a bunch of other professionals and 200,000 of like your closest friends, if not more tonight. I don't even know how many people are in the Millie Maker. Even if you have 150 lineups, you're just and on a showdown slate. It's just pitiful. I would never play the Millie Maker on a showdown slate. The one time that I did max it out was on a 2-game slate. Let me make a fat intro beat for you. Hey, I like it. I know that you're not a weather guy, but are there any unusual weather concerns? I mean, there might be some wind and some rain, but no, the Vegas total has not changed. If anything, the Falcons total has come up. Hey, everyone, smash the like button. Yeah, definitely. Hit the like and subscribe, y'all. How many people? I always forget to check how many people are in these streams at times. What are we at right now? Damn, we're at 1,122 people? Holy shit, I thought we were going to be like 800 or something. Those extra 300 of you sneak up on me, man. Awesome, man. What's up, Kane? Yeah. Any shadow matchups tonight? Shadow matchups? No, I don't think you're going to see any shadow matchups tonight. No, sir. I don't think you're going to see any shadow matchups tonight. Like, if we're talking shadow matchups in terms of being, like, 75% covered by a guy, yeah, I don't think that's going to be happening tonight. I think that Dante Jackson will attempt to try and stay on probably Julio Jones, but, like, 55, 60% of the time maybe. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to see any shadow matchups tonight. On the opposite side of that one, you probably end up seeing, at least from an Atlanta point of view, you probably end up seeing A.J. Terrell attempting to guard Robbie Anderson most of the time, but even then, maybe 55, 60%. Like, I don't think you're going to see any shadow matchups. You should do a series of hand pick versus optimizer. Who wins? I mean, that, like, sounds interesting, but, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what you mean there. Like, if you're making one lineup, you should hand build it. If you're blanking 150, you should use the optimizer. Otherwise, you're going to spend like 24 hours out of your day trying to make 150 lineups that don't overlap and correlate well. Why is Mike Davis the most expensive player on FanDuel? No idea. Have not opened the FanDuel website in a year and a half. Like and subscribe, subs Chris. Nice. Yeah, if you're brand new here, a lot of people find me through these live streams. I would like to make some of my shows, like the shows that I do during the week, into live streams. I just like to edit them a little bit, make it a little bit quicker and more to the point. And I also like to just pre-record stuff. I think it does better from a search standpoint on YouTube and algorithms and stuff. Makes the podcast hit a little bit sharper too. I can edit out some of my gasps, stuff like that. But it does lead to more engagement on the streams, of course, and it also leads to less time. So maybe there's a way that I can do that. I like the content, bro. Keep grinding. Thank you, Stephen White. I appreciate that. I also want to look for some interesting shows for some other creators to jump on. Like we've had Dylan Bird doing the props. Those have been great. 6-2 last week. I think he went on the Friday shows, which will come out tomorrow around noon. But I want to look for some other creators, some interesting shows, different ones. Like I've had people reach out about waiver wire shows and trade target shows and all that stuff for season long. And I think those are appealing, right? I think that they're all being done though. Like my That One Dude's doing really well right now because it's very unique content. So I think there's some interesting shows, whether it's like a takeaway show, like key stats type of a show. But I need to find the right creators. I'll probably reach out to some established people and see if that they have the extra bandwidth in their schedules or interest. But a lot of people that are reaching out, I appreciate all the content and all the scripts that people are like sending me in their content pieces. It just honestly looks like everything else that like all the YouTubers that have like 200 followers, and you should continue to grind, but you got to do something different than 2 years ago. Like the stuff that I did 2 years ago would not work today. Started watching you 2 weeks ago. In the past 2 weeks, I've been doing amazing on Draftkings. Keep up the good work. Love the videos. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's the whole point. My goal is to not come on here and just do the videos to do them. I'm literally telling you like the process that I'm using and the stuff that I'm having. And this has also been my best year. So it makes sense that a lot of other people, if you're paying close attention to some of the stuff that I say about game theory and say about stacking and correlating your lineups, and not just, do I play Mike Davis because he's going to score no. The whole point of game theory and stacking, there's a whole different avenue of it for Showdown slates. But yeah, it makes sense that if you've been following along closely, especially if you're a patron, because we literally lay out the process every Sunday morning for how the hell you're going to win money on the slate. And it seems to have worked a lot of the week so far based on the Patreon numbers that we have so far this year and all the positive feedback we've been getting. If you're a patron and you're here right now, let me know. Shout out to you. Do you always make your money back playing from 150 max lineups? No, not at all. So Darth asks, Darth Spock. No. So this is like the people that are like in, I don't even know what state or which country. I don't want to insult anybody in here. But let's just say the people with the lower IQs will always, I'll see like on Twitter and stuff, like people like just recording them and joking about them, like saying that if you play 150 lineups, you're guaranteed to 1, win your money back, and 2, win money. I mean, just take out a loan. Go to the bank and take out $1,500, and why don't you just run that thing up like Dan Bilzerian said that he did, even though now it's coming out that he actually didn't win any money gambling, right? You just run that thing all the way up. So you will lose more times than not probably playing 150s. You will lose more times than not. And think about it. It makes sense, right? The reason why you win long term is like in week 4 for me, I hit $18,000, and if I properly bankroll allocate that, I'll win now for the year. We won week 1 like $1,600. We won the week before. We won 17.7K. We won like $4,000. Should have been even more if Michael Gallup brings in 1 catch in that game that was like a 7-yard pass out to the out, would have jumped us like an extra 2 spots in the tournament. So yeah, I mean, you don't always win. No. Like if I'm playing 150s, I'm going to lose more times than I actually win in terms of like my overall lineups, not my money, but like playing 150 lineups, yeah, I might lose like 100 of those lineups might lose, but your goal is that one lineup pops off, right? And it makes sense. Only 20% of the people win a night. 20% of the people are going to cash in a contest. So if you think that more times than not, you're going to get that lucky, right? You're going to be on the positive side of it. Some nights, yeah, a lot of your lineups will cash. It has to be a really bad night for them all to lose, but that's the possibility as well that you play, depending on how heavy you're going to be on certain players. Love the show. Appreciate your work. DJ Moore, Todd Gurley in the utility spot. Thank you, Alec. I appreciate you as well, man. Hope you're having a good night. DJ Moore from me. I know you don't like quarterback running back stacks as much, but do you think Henry and Tannehill is a good stack for GPPs this Sunday? No, I wouldn't run that. I've started watching the last couple of weeks. Helps a lot. Keep it up. Also, I like Aaron Rodgers tonight. Thank you. Zach Wolf says, hey, my man Zach Wolf's only been here for a couple of weeks, but he already knows. He already knows, my man. Let's go. Sam French is in here. He said, hit that like button. Gyalf. Hey, yo, Sam French. We got the Gyalf t-shirts. My man Sam French is about to sell out those Gyalf t-shirts the second they come on the market. They're not out yet. The YouTube store, I think we already have like a store established. My brother did some designs a while ago just because you can make it. If anybody has any experience with running stores, whether it's Shopify, I have Teespring hooked up to YouTube because it automatically comes with YouTube. Hit me up on my email, hit me up on Twitter or something, YouTube comments so I can reach out to you because I want to find the best margins. Like I want to have I'll put shirts up there even if I don't make a dime on it. But, I mean, if I can make a dime on it, why not, right? In Teespring, you don't really make much money. But we're going to I have a designer right now that we're paying the big Dollarooskies to give us some really good designs for Dollarooskies, Brewskis, Gyalf, fellas, a bunch of stuff. Maybe that one dude. You got any bets going for tonight's game? I don't, but on Monday night's slate, I will. I don't have any bets going for tonight's game. No. Super Draft has some fun contests. Get in on it. Also, the stuff on Patreon is well worth it. Excellent game-by-game breakdown notes helps a ton. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Yeah, the game-by-game notes will be out tomorrow. It's looking right now to be probably around like 19 pages. Should I play Jones and Ridley tonight in PPR? Yeah, definitely. In your season long. Start Derek Carr or Teddy Bridgewater. I will start Teddy Bridgewater. What do you think of Brian Hill? I have like 20%, but I'm going to get less. Let's do this right now. Let's try and reduce his projection right now. So we were talking about Brian Hill earlier. His snaps have come down each of the last 3 weeks. And I mean, if he doesn't score, and this is the whole reason you play him. You want him to score a touchdown. Because if Brian Hill's not scoring a touchdown, he still picks up points, right? Basically, he's only scored 1 touchdown this year, and he has games with 6 fantasy points like last game, although he caught all 3 of his targets. He had 7 fantasy points in week 5 without a touchdown against Carolina, although he had 54 total yards on what was like only, I believe, like 6 or 7 touches, 8 touches. So there's a possibility, right? But the downside is he's priced up. Even if Brian Hill gets you 6 fantasy points tonight, there's a good chance it's not enough at $2,200. Like if he was $200, sure, you get access to even more guys. There's a decent chance 6 fantasy points at $2,200 isn't enough because the kicker scores 10 for $1,000 more, or Russell Gage scores 14 for $1,200, $1,600 more, right? Does Anderson and Moore have negative correlation like Ridley and Julio does? I mean, look, any wide receivers together will technically be negatively correlated to each other. Not to their quarterback, obviously. They're directly correlated there. So any reception that Julio has and any touchdown that he has, obviously that means it's negative to Calvin Ridley's overall ceiling. Julio scoring 25 points is not going to help Calvin Ridley get to 30 points or even 15, 20, right? But that doesn't matter as much on a showdown slate to me. It really doesn't. Bridgewater, Davis, and Anderson. Is that too much stacked? No, I think that's okay. Sal is the man. Thanks for the content. Appreciate you, JB. Thank you. Patreon here, says Anthony. What's up, my man? How you doing? Being a Patreon rocks, says Cheryl. Hey, we got a lot of Patrons up in here right now. What's up, guys? Appreciate y'all. Flash by Night says, I'm a Patreon here. Game stacking is key. Ever since you got me into that, I haven't deposited in 5 weeks, says Robert. Nice, Robert. So I assume you've been listening to the Sunday morning Patreon shows. I'll also drop in the Patreon. Why not plug it all the way to the full extent here? Here's the link to Patreon. Also, Patreon charges you when you sign up and at the beginning of each month. I can't control that, but if you sign up now, there's obviously only like 2 days left in the month. Just reach out to me when you're hit in November, and I'll just refund your October charge. That is if, again, you stay on for November. How many fantasy points do you think to be in the money? That is a good question. I will look at some of my average projected lineups here. So some of my highest projected lineups, not projecting by ceiling, are going to project out for like right around 100 points. So like in the money, I don't know, upper 80s, low 90s, depending on how many ties there are. Patreon fam, what's up, Zachary? How you doing? I don't know if you already explained this before, but does stacking give you more points? Stacking will give you, the reason why you stack is it's less difficult to project outcomes. It's going to help you a lot more on main slates. So if you stack these 3 players together or these 5 guys from a game like I like to do a lot, game stacking, if this game just pops off like the Texans and Houston did in previous weeks, like we've had from a lot of Cowboys games before Dak got hurt, if that game just pops off, Seattle and Arizona this past week, right? You're probably going to get a lot of the points because most of the time quarterbacks throw to specific receivers, Christian Kirk and Hopkins from that game, Tyler Lockett and DK from that side are your main options to pick from. So you're going to really get a lot of opportunity there, right? So you're going to get a lot of points by just getting one thing right. That game popped off. If you don't stack, you can still do well. It's just much harder correlation-wise. You're going to have an easier chance to get to, not the optimal lineup. It's really difficult to ever build the optimal lineup, the highest scoring out of every lineup, but the lineup that beats your opponents the most. So all you have to do is get one thing right, the game going off, to hit on your stack, compared to having to get 5 separate game situations right when you don't stack. You pick a quarterback, 2 pass catchers, or a quarterback and 4 pass catchers that aren't in the same game or same team and correlated. You have to get all those situations right. You have to get every single one of those things right. 5 things right compared to 1 thing right, way easier to get 1 thing right, in terms of a game stack. How much Mike Davis do you have tonight percentages-wise? Factoring in my captain ownership towards Mike Davis, 77%. Mike Davis is way too cheap. I would agree to that. Sorry if you already answered this. Prefer Robbie Anderson, Davis, or Julio in your captain spots? I have ownership to each of them, but I have more Davis. What about a show about jock market? That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I would do it. So there's always a caveat to if I had a new show with either myself or new content creators, and it's people have to be searching for it. So for me to like partner up with Jock Market like I'm doing right now, it is, in my opinion, way more beneficial to them. And I've done this. I've done this with other companies when I first started out 2 years ago doing individual content for them. It doesn't get a lot of traffic because if I made a Jock Market video right now, maybe it gets like 1,000 views. The videos that they're sponsoring right now are getting like 10,000 views. That's way better for their brand, right? In my opinion. And I honestly think that video might not even get 1,000 views. You have to make content for what people are searching for. You don't make a video and then put a title on it. You find out what your title is before you make the video, if that makes sense. A little secret behind the YouTube side. Maybe I should make my second channel do some YouTube stuff. Hit the like button, you lazy freeloader, says Mike. I don't think anybody in here is a lazy freeloader. You're grinding right before the game starts in like an hour and a half. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, hit that like button, yo. Hit that like button. What y'all doing? How many people we got in here now? Almost 1,200 people. Like, subscribe, do all those things. We're popping off a little bit. We're above 31,000 subscribers now, and we're still going. Mark Turner donates $10 Rooskies. He says, best captain option in your opinion tonight. So, I have the most right now captain ownership to Mike Davis in 150 lineups. If I sort my lineups by highest projected lineups, I get a lot of different lineups with Mike Davis, DJ Moore, Russell Gage is up there in some of these. So, yeah, it's a combination between DJ Moore, Mike Davis, Anderson, and Russell Gage. And I have the most Mike Davis. I'll say that. I do think that Russell Gage is very interesting because of how cheap he is, and he basically allows you to get in another stud into your lineup compared to, I mean, he's $4,000 cheaper, $6,000 in savings compared to putting Mike Davis in the captain spot. That's allowing you to get up from, let's just say, like you're playing Curtis Samuel or a kicker. Now you're getting up to like a Julio Jones in your lineup. So you get to, just from playing Russell Gage, I believe, what the price difference is like $4,000, right? Then in the captain, you get to save a little bit extra. Just by playing Russell Gage, you're literally turning your kicker in that lineup into a one of the other top end plays. So you need obviously Gage to pay off in a way that is not just 10 fantasy points, but is 7 catches, maybe 80 yards, and that's 15 points. That could be enough, but probably the touchdown as well. But I do like Russell Gage a lot. If I'm playing just one lineup tonight, he's not my highest projected overall lineup, but he's in the top 10. Some of these lineups do have Russell Gage. Let's see how many lineups have Russell Gage in my top 10 lineups. So 3 out of the top 10 have Russell Gage in there, but it's pretty evenly split. I would say right now, 3 out of the top 10 have Mike Davis, and then 3 have Anderson, and 1 has DJ Moore. So it's pretty evenly split. I think I would go to Gage, though. Hopefully that helps the in-depth answer there. Top stack with who at the captain spot, says Tyler Case. Top stack on this? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not putting it crazy. I have rules in place, like a good amount of rules, but I'm not putting like crazy advanced like groups together tonight, right? For a showdown slate. I think there's things that you can do if you want to segment them. I do a little bit of that. But like overall stacks, yeah. If I'm putting Gage in the captain spot, I'm probably going to have Matt Ryan in that lineup. And then I'm going to attempt to, since I have salary savings, to get Teddy Bridgewater in there as well, which is also the other nice thing. If you're playing Russell Gage in the captain spot, it makes it a lot easier to get to both quarterbacks. You don't need to get to both quarterbacks, but it makes it a lot easier to do so. Is 4 Panthers too many on FanDuel? You only got 5 roster spots on FanDuel? I don't think so. Gurley or Davis? Davis. What's up? What's going on, man? How you doing? I love the notes on your projections. Well, like these notes right here are like the like game by game notes on Patreon. Yeah, they're helpful. Found you through an Awesome stream, and now I always come here first for videos. Good stuff as always. Thanks, Andrew. When did you find me? I'm curious. I'm doing just one Awesome stream a week. That was a conscious effort instead of doing 2 or 3 like we did last year. With the basketball season, since there was no COVID, I was doing like 4 streams a week with them. It was becoming a little bit much with all the work that I was doing as well. There's a chance I could probably take on a second stream, but I'm going to keep it to just one to try and preserve the energy and things like that. But I'm curious if you found that this year or last year. Like during NBA, we were doing an NFL stream or a golf stream a week and then 1 or 2 NBA streams. Keep up the great videos. Thank you. I appreciate it. Is ownership going more towards Gage or Samuel? I think it will be. So like ownership between the two of them, I think is going to be pretty identical. I think you might see a little bit more on Russell or on Curtis Samuel just due to. I think you'll see a little bit more just on Curtis Samuel just due to like overall projection. I think a lot of people will have him higher. I personally right now have Samuel for like a point higher, but yeah, Also, if people are looking at last game logs, you had Gage doing well, but you had the big game log for Curtis Samuel, right? He gets the 5-yard rushing touchdown, gives him a lot bigger of a game log there. Mark Turner donates $50 Rooskies to the stream. Wow. It's very kind of you, Mark. He says, great content, Sal. Hopefully that answer to the previous one helped you out. Appreciate you a ton. Thank you. Do you have any kickers engaged in the same lineup? I'm sure that I do, although I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm looking at some right now. Yeah, I do. Because I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. So if you're playing Gage in the captain spot, I would still leave money on the table if you're playing like the Millie Maker, but you don't have to. Like if you're playing a small field contest, you don't have to. Like if you're playing a contest that's a single entry, only has like 2, 3, 400, 500 people, even like 1,000 people, Gage might only be like 2 or 3% owned, if that, in the captain spot. So then you don't have to start to leave all your money on the table. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Like I'm going to run some crunches with just leaving a couple hundred. Like I have $1,000 on the table in like every lineup. Let's see if I only leave $500 on the table, how much higher my overall top projected lineups become. And the whole reason I'm not playing these is assuming that they're going to be duplicated like so many times, right? Peter Hanley donates $5 to the stream. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. We have over 1,200 people in here now. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool for a Thursday night slate. Makes sense with a Millie Maker up for grabs. We've been live for about 48 minutes. Let's stay on for maybe like another 15 or so. Does using optimizers help you win more often, and is it worth using in 20 max entry? 20 max is like the borderline. Does it help you win more often? If you just buy an optimizer, no. It's not going to help you win more often, no. It saves you time, and if you get good at it, yes, then you will. If you know how to set up rules, if you know how to set up correlations, groups, if you know how to actually not just use the optimizer, it's a tool, right? You are putting your knowledge and what you want to happen into the tool, and then it is optimizing for you off of that. It does not just take projections and make you good lineups. That's not how it works, right? It'll make you decent lineups sometimes, especially if you're playing football. It's not going to correlate for you. It's not going to set up rules for you. It's not going to set up groups for you. So there's a lot of legwork, not a ton, but there's a lot of legwork that you have to put in, like game theory wise. Do you want to stack this running back with this quarterback? Do you want to just fully fade guys, take them out of your player pool? Do you want to lower the projection on some guys to get less of them? Those are like conscious efforts that you have to make and actually just have some human intuition into it. But the optimizer will just save you a ton of time in terms of like literally optimizing your lineups and building you 20 or 150 instead of you sitting there going hand by hand. So like each Sunday morning, sometimes Saturday nights, but this year it's been mainly Sunday mornings and we've been doing really well. So up over like 20K. So hopefully we keep doing that. So Sunday mornings, I'll set up my optimizer. I'll get up at like 5. By the time I set up my optimizers, my groups, my rules, all that stuff, I'm pretty in tune with what I want to do. It probably takes me like 45 minutes to do all that. And then I start crunching lineups and I see what's happening. Is it giving me too much of these guys together? This, that, what's happening here? I'll alter some stuff. And we talk about some of that stuff on the Patreon show and a lot more. What's up, Patreon? Let's get this bread. What's up, man? How you doing? Welcome. Dumb to play all 3 of the Carolina receivers. I think it'll be lower owned. Curtis Samuel does have rushing upside in terms of not taking fully away in the passing game from some other guys. I'm not going to be playing that in one lineup, though. No. Thank you, Sal. No problem, man. Can you talk a little bit about the weather impacting the game? Yeah, I don't think it's going to impact the game based on what Vegas is telling me. The Vegas odds have not changed. If anything, Atlanta's team total has come up by 1 point. Currently, the Vegas odds have not changed. The Vegas total has gone up by a 0.5 point tonight. So if Vegas, the people that are having, Vegas is now basically New Jersey, Pennsylvania, all these places, right? If the sports betting market, Vegas sets the line, the market then actually moves the line. If the sports betting market right now, which has a lot of people making a lot of money in there professionally, if they're saying we're not worried about the weather, this is not going to impact the game, then I'm not either. And when it comes down to it, I've talked with some people before, Kevin Roth from RotoGrinders, some other weathermen, right, that are on Twitter. A lot of these stadiums factor out wind. They factor out wind. The way that the gloves work for players, the amount of towels that they have, the rain does not matter all that much for the football. Maybe it causes an extra fumble or an extra incompletion, right? Whatever it might be. If it's a torrential downpour the whole time, yeah, that's a concern. But normally these downpours last like 5 to 10 minutes. The wind gusts that people are scared of, 20-mile-per-hour winds, most of the time those don't get into the stadium. And other than that, these quarterbacks throw darts. So unless they're throwing 40-yard like bombs into the air, the wind's not going to affect them. And how often do quarterbacks throw 40-yard passes high into the air? Once, twice a game. So the wind will perfectly have to come through at the perfect angle during that time to hit it. I don't think they affect the game. Just joined. Thoughts on Samuel? I have like 18%. I like Gage a lot more. Mark Turner's the man. Money is flowing. Yeah, it really is. Thank you. Best props for today. I don't have any player props in, to be honest with you. I don't. I will try. Usually if I have like Monkey Knife Fight sponsor some of these shows, we've been doing Super Draft because I like the way that they kind of set up for Showdown. They have their own Showdown contests. I like those contests, and people have been getting success on Patreon with them, so I figure prop them up a little bit more. So I don't have any props. But normally if I'm like sponsoring Monkey Knife Fight that night, I'll go in and snag some props. But since I'm sponsoring Super Draft tonight, I usually try and play Super Draft. I'm going to play tonight. So it's just kind of the way that like my brain works. It kind of just reminds me, honestly, just because I play so much Draftkings. So like Monkey Knife Fight, I'll get in for the main contests. Player props, I'll normally try and tail people that look into it a little bit more. But player props tonight, I would probably be looking for Russell Gage. Like anytime my projections are going to be higher on a player, I would assume that Russell Gage is going to be a little bit too low in the player props tonight. And maybe, now I'm going to go snags, look at least the DraftKings lines on Russell Gage props. Let's do this. I'll pull them up. I'm a Patreon member. What's up, Sal? Let's have some fun. What's going on, Quincy? How you doing? Gage is captain, game stack Panthers. Yeah, that could work. Favorite Panthers wide receiver tonight? Slightly DJ Moore, but I have a lot of DJ Moore and Anderson. Thoughts on Mike Davis as a captain? He's my highest owned captain in 150, so I like him. If you don't mind, how much Gage do you have? I have, including my captain ownership, I have 64% Gage tonight. On pregame, Mike Davis just walked into the stadium in a full Pennywise costume, mask and all, ready to kill. 100%, man, 100%. Late joining in, what's your highest owned ratio? 4-2, 5-1, or 3-3? I think 4-2 tonight. Do you have any Gurley at captain? No. Cash lineup, Davis captain, both quarterbacks, Gage and Hill. Hill's like the sketchy part, but the other parts that seem okay. Julio because he's going to be booming. Nice. Single game on FanDuel is a dart throw. Yeah, for sure. I don't like that. Over or under 51 points for tonight. Yeah, I don't have any bets in on that. I would tell you if I had a strong lean. I don't have a strong lean in, right? I like to usually bet like if the total drops a ton, right? The total drops like 4 points because people are scared of the weather. It eventually hits a bottom number where it's way too low. Like if this total drops like 46, 47 points, then I would grab the over because it's going to bounce back. Aaron Rodgers the captain tonight? Definitely. Is Ian Thomas a thing? I have 1%. I want him to be a thing. He's running a lot of routes. He's just not seeing any targets. And even if he gets you 3 catches for 30 yards, he's already priced for it. Like it doesn't even matter. Yeah, man, Mark Turner is a beast. Thank you. Appreciate that. Coup breaking his cap before breaking the slate. Gage captain, cash viable to fit both quarterbacks. Yeah, I mean, if you're playing cash on a showdown slate, that is just, you are just a different type of crazy person. But yeah, it seems viable. God Gurley will break the slate. Hey, I like that. Aaron Rodgers captain. Yeah, I like how a lot of people know the inside jokes here. That's good. We're hitting record highs right now, 12:20 on a Thursday night slate. Pretty cool. Going way over 51. You playing both quarterbacks in the lineup tonight? Yeah, some of my lineups have both quarterbacks. Some of them do. I'm not sure if my optimal one will. Quote unquote optimal. I don't know. I'm just going to play 150s. I normally don't play. Oh, man. I don't know why DraftKings sometimes just like knocks me out. So then I have to sign into all of my other stuff. All of my like password keepers and stuff. Who's your favorite Super Draft plays tonight? A lot of the Panthers guys, to be honest with you, like all of them. Running backs, 2 starting wide receivers, and quarterback. They all look pretty good. But to see which ones are which, you can check out Patreon, link down below. In terms of who's the highest projected, what Atlanta guys like a lot, all that type of stuff. Let me pull up. Now I have to sign back into fucking DraftKings for DFS. Wait, can I get into it through here? No, it's making me fucking sign back in. This is bullshit. All right, let's sign back in. Gurley is going to beast mode. No Matt Ryan? No, I have Matt Ryan, just not anywhere near as much as I have Teddy Bridgewater, which is the concern, I would say. Well, not concern for me, but probably other people. Like, I'm going to have a lot more Teddy Bridgewater than the field. I'll have a lot less Matt Ryan than the field, but I'm not too concerned about it. Like, most of my highest projected lineups still have Matt Ryan in a good amount of them, so I'm not too concerned about it. Teddy just grades out better, and he's cheaper. Do you think the weather will have a major effect on the game? No, if you scroll back like 5 minutes, I discussed it in pretty good detail. I don't. Unless the Vegas odds plummet in the next hour, hour and a half. Vegas odds have gone up right now in the game, so that's what I'm going to be tracking. Smash the like, somebody says, nice. How often do you get a haircut? I mean, ideally every week, but every 2 weeks. Any Brian Hill love as a salary saver? A little bit. He's like the only guy that I would even consider below. Below the kickers, there's Ian Thomas and Brian Hill, and I'm not getting any Ian Thomas, so I guess Brian Hill's the guy that I'm getting some of. Best sub 1K punt option. First of all, my answer is don't do it. Right? My answer is don't do it. If you are telling me right now that you're dying to play a guy below $1,000 on this slate, it's probably Ito Smith, and you're probably getting 1 to 2 touches unless somebody gets hurt. I don't know about fading Matt, but probably Davis. I'm not actively trying to fade Matt Ryan. I have my projections that I work very hard to get accurate projections, and they have been accurate this year and for 2 years now, 3 years. But yeah, I mean, you can see it in the ownership on Matt Ryan. He's going to be lower owned because he's highly expensive at $11,000, offers no rushing upside, and there's so many wide receivers on the slate that are cheaper, and the other quarterback who has mobility is cheaper. So, like, to fit him into your lineups, you need like the perfect situation to happen. Why don't you play FanDuel? It's probably a marketing thing, but also there's a lot of sketchy things FanDuel has done in the recent years. Literally 2 weeks ago, if you've been keeping a pulse on the industry, very sketchy for them not to have any type of live scoring on their platform and then not give you your money back when you can't do late swap. Nobody can do late swap. So people who are playing 4, 5, 6 figures on their site can't late swap into more optimal builds to not lose as much money and potentially winning a lot of money. And then the remedy for that was to pay you back up to $100 in FanDuel credits. I mean, what? That's just one of the sketchy things. They've sent out an email to me like 2 years ago. I haven't played FanDuel in like a year and a half. They sent out an email like 2 years ago to me saying like any money that's left in your account every month, we're going to start taking $3 from it. And it was in like the fine print at the bottom of the email. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that they do. They're obviously like a lot of things that they do that one, Draftkings doesn't do. So that's why I play there. If it was like the industry standard, then you just got to deal with it. But two, like just kind of sketchy. Like, do you guys got money? Are you guys like worried about money? Like what's going on here? Ito Smith inactive. So there you go. Ito Smith's inactive. So makes Brian Hill look a little bit better. Inactives came out a couple minutes ago. Nice. So now that Ito Smith's inactive, I would play Chris Manhertz if you're looking for a below $1,000 punt because there's literally no options. But there you go. Ito Smith inactive tonight. Let me pull up any other crazy news if there was any other crazy news from the Carolina side. Inactives for tonight. Ito Smith. That's the only one that you really got to worry about from a standpoint. Let me pull this up from a DFS standpoint. Let me pull up Carolina if they got any inactives tonight out yet. Not seeing Atlanta's inactives or Carolina's inactives just yet. Ito Smith is inactive. Somebody says yes, he is. Let me sign back into DraftKings now that I actually can. Ty Duder just donates $2 to the stream. He just says, cool. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. What are your locks? I have nobody locked into 100% of my lineups. I don't think anybody deserves it. Ty, you're better than Josh. I don't know who Josh is. Yon Rodriguez donates $5 to the stream. He says, Hurst tonight or Gronk Monday for my season long. Won 500 the other night thanks to your Patreon projections. Congrats, Yon. I'd be going with Hayden Hurst tonight. Gronk does seem appealing, especially if you're going to have potentially Godwin miss that game, but I'll go with Hayden Hurst. That means Brian Hill will get 20 snaps instead of 17, somebody says. Yeah, I mean, if Ito Smith's not out there, I mean, he hasn't been anything crazy, right? So let's not get carried away here. Let's look at Ito Smith's last couple of game logs. But if you are going to say it helps anybody, you would say that it does help Brian Smith's touch overall in snaps. Why am I continuously getting signed out of DraftKings? There we go. We're signed in. Alrighty, let me pull this up real quickly now. And then we'll kind of close out the show. I used to like FanDuel, but they can select, yeah. Top captain. Now Hill, like I said earlier. Yeah, so I mean, I've had Hill. I've had over the field on Hill, although I have not been crazy about getting Hill. This is not going to change much. Like, let's not get crazy here, right? I mean, Ito Smith played 4% of the snaps last week, and Brian Hill played only 20-something. Like, Todd Gurley is taking over his backfield, whether we like it or not. And I like it because I was high on him beginning of the season. But, I mean, this has been Ito Smith workload, right? He's seen 3 touches. I mean, this has been his workload, literally. 0 touches, 5 was his high against Green Bay. 3. And the one against Green Bay was when they're down big, so he's in there for pass-catching responsibilities when Gurley's not. 3 and then 0. So, I mean, Ito Smith's been out there for nothing. But, I mean, a couple double-digit snap weeks before that, so that's where maybe there's some sort of change overall, but I'm not expecting Ito Smith to really do anything to change. I mean, it probably brings Brian Hill from 4.5 point projection to like 4.8, 4.9, maybe gets him an extra carry. Hey, Sal, have you seen Kingdom on Netflix? If not, check it out. Best show I've seen in a while. Interesting random suggestion, but thank you. No, I've not even heard of it. Thoughts on Brandon Powell? Heard his name come up a few times on the Osmo video. Yeah, not something I would ever consider. Brandon Powell only saw 19 routes last week because Russell Gage got hurt in the first half. Brandon Powell will run probably like 4 or 5 routes tonight, maybe if that. He's going to operate as like the number 5 wide receiver, the backup directly to Russell Gage. You're hoping if you play Brandon Powell that Russell Gage is injured. I would not play Brandon Powell tonight. So Brandon Powell, This is what you're going to get out of Brandon Powell tonight. Maybe 2 routes run, right? Upside of like 4 routes run if there's no injuries. Brandon Powell ran 19 routes last week. Yes, he saw, I believe he saw 2 targets, 19 routes because Russell Gage was hurt in the first half. Before that, he was running 3 routes, 4 routes, 0 routes, 0 routes, 3 routes, right? So he's a direct backup. Russell Gage will be the guy out there. Just got home. Going to have to rewind this. Samuel for Captain Viable. I don't have any, but yeah, definitely rewind. A lot of good things talked about here. Is Gurley dinged up, question mark? The fact that they have Ito Smith inactive, I would say that Gurley is fully good to go. Hey, Sal, love your videos. Can you give an explanation why you got Gurley as a maybe? Sorry if I missed it. Yeah, I mean, I only have him projected for 13 fantasy points, and he's expensive. The guys I have above him and below him project out as much better values, so I'm not getting a lot. Thanks for doing the show, Sal. Yeah, no problem. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Also, if you're still here right now, hit me with a like button. Big old subscribe button is not going to pop up on the screen because this is not being edited. I'm going to throw in right now a couple of things. I'm going to throw in the Patreon link, and then I'll throw in my Twitter if you don't follow that either. If you want to just check out Patreon, if you're interested in it, if of course you have the means, if you want to check it all out. Perfect stuff has been happening this year on Patreon, a lot of good stuff. And then here's my Twitter if you want to check that out, if you want to follow me over there. I think I'm about to bounce. If you have any further questions, all the projections, rankings, all that stuff for Patreon, Superdraft are down below. Check out Superdraft. Again, their contests are fantastic. 4 figures up for grabs to first place. Contests might not fill, and you're not going to have that much competition in there on Superdraft tonight. Promo code SAL gets you that 50% deposit match. We've had now followers win $25,000 plus on Sunday, and since Monday Showdown Slate, $5,000. So I've gotten reached out to about 4 days in a row about Superdraft, whether somebody's really liked it or bing to big. So be sure to check it out so you can be potentially next. I've been kicking Steven. I'm going to address this comment because it's funny. He said, I've been watching you for a little bit. This is my first time commenting because I've been kicking my weekly fantasy group's ass because of you. Hey, that's all you, man. Nice stuff. I started taking DFS seriously using optimizers. I still hand build, but when I optimize 150 into the main slate this week, says Andrew. Nice. Congrats. Cheers, everybody. Peace out. Peace out. Best of luck, everybody. Thank you again to Mark and all the people who left some super chats. Be sure to subscribe and like before you go. Follow me on Twitter, all that type of stuff. And I'll see you all in the next one. We're going to have a video out tomorrow morning for the final thoughts, a prop video in the afternoon. Saturday, that one dude. Sunday live stream will be here again. Best of luck. Enjoy the game tonight. Should be a good one.